When you play the Game of Thrones, you
Subscribe and like.
or you die. There is no middle ground.
Alright, hello YouTube, welcome back to the Grease College YouTube channel. Today's video, we're going to be talking about the Not a Vlog update, the second one, not the first one. I did a video on the one where he's talking about Winds of Winter and all of his projects and kind of his year wrapped earlier in the week, so if you want to check out that one, go ahead and you can look at that. This video is going to be talking about the next blog update, which is kind of the release of Rise of the Dragons. And this video, I'm going to be giving you guys my thoughts, as well as kind of doing a mini rant, because I'm kind of just very frustrated at this point with George. And yeah, so before we get into the video, if you guys like to like, subscribe, and comment for more of this type of content. I do mainly a Song of Ice and Fire stuff on this channel, as well as information about whatever George is doing. So yeah. Now, I did a poll on this before I did this video and sat down to record it, asking if you guys cared about kind of this book in general. And I kind of want to get you guys' opinions. If you didn't, see that poll or whatever in the comments, before I give you guys my thoughts, what do you think about this? Are you excited about this, Rise of the Dragons, which is going to be an encyclopedia type style of, I guess, Fire and Blood Part 1, basically. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about that. Let me know your guys' thoughts. And now I'm going to get into my stuff. So I'm going to be honest. I agree with kind of how the poll stands. There was about 22% to about 78% on no, they don't care about this, which is kind of what I expected. My problem with this is, so one of the main things I talked about in my first George R. R. Martin video is that George, I just feel like, does not want to make new content. This encyclopedia is basically all recycled content, and then he's doing, he has people doing art and stuff in it. It's just very much nothing new, right? I don't think I will get this book just based upon the facts of why would I? It doesn't add anything that, to me, I need. And maybe it would be different if this was Fire and Blood Part 2, because that's a story we really don't know a lot of the background information for. It'd be a lot of kind of new material, and it would be something I would be looking forward to if it was coming out. But Rise of the Dragons just doesn't matter to me. And the fact that he decides to make a not a blog post kind of releasing this right after making a post that kind of, if it didn't piss you off, it did not make you feel hopeful for the future. And it just, it bugs me. It's almost as if George is kind of taking shots at the hardcore fans that are the loyal people to his books and stuff like that, and saying, oh, you guys want wins? Well, here's a book largely no one cares about. This whole book just seems like a maneuver to George to kind of get the publishers off his back and to kind of just release something just to release something. That is kind of personally how I feel about that whole thing, and it just continues to show me is, why, George, are you working on things like this that just don't matter, really, when you could be using your time on other things? And that's just my problem with George at the moment. He just seems so distracted, taking on so many projects, that wins just, for me, the more and more I look at how George is doing, is I just don't believe we're going to get a Dream of Spring. I think we'll be lucky if we get wins. I don't feel like he cares anymore. And I talked about this in the last video I did, but think about it like this, right? A Storm of Swords came out, and I believe 2000, when I was born. That's when I was born. And since then, in the last 22 years, we've really only gotten one book, because Feast for Crows and Dance with Dragons was really one giant book that George decided he needed to split into two, which is why I believe it took, 5 and 6 years for those books to come out, because Feast for Crow came out in 2005, I believe, and then Dance with Dragons came out in 2011. So I give him a pass for that, because he did have to separate all those kind of into their own separate books, figuring out what characters he wanted to do that with, and then kind of pacing it to where it made sense for those books. So I understand why those books took longer, right? But the thing is, he had the more or less story done by like Feast for Crows coming out, right? It just, took it, putting on paper and stuff. So when you look at Winds of Winter, and we're, what, 11 years in, going on 12, and realistically, I would say we're lucky if the book is even halfway done. And I know people will say, okay, George doesn't owe us the book and all that stuff, but to a degree, I do believe he does owe us the book. If you look at all of his writings, right, the reason he is able to financially continue to do this is because of A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones, the TV show, right? And the fact that he's neglecting to finish the story that really made him a big name and really got him the wealth that he has is very insulting, I feel like. And it's the one story that most people want, right? Because my thing with this is George is trying to do all these spin-off shows, but here's the problem. The longer that you don't release Winds and the main story doesn't get completed and all that, I feel like the more and more you're going to lose fans. Fans are not going to care about all these extra spin-off shows. They're kind of cool ideas, but at the same time, do we really care that much, right? Like the spin-off about the sea snake. Do I really care about that? I have like a little interest in it, not much. They're doing a series about Nymeria. I don't really care that much. I think it's okay. I'd rather George focus on more of the important things, but I don't know. It's one of those things where the hardcore fans are the people that George should be trying to appease and keep, in his fan base, because a lot of the casual fans he's lost. The casual fans of A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones are probably not here anymore. The show destroyed Game of Thrones, so people that were watching just off the TV show will probably not watch these prequel shows, because why would they? I mean, if you don't like Game of Thrones, why would you have any trust in this, right? And then you look at kind of the casual readers, right? A lot of those people will probably have left by now. I mean, you just can't take this long in between books and then show almost no progress, really, and expect people to just hang around, because I don't think it's going to happen. Now, when Winds comes out, I do believe it will. If it comes out, it will be one of the highest selling books probably of all time. But when it comes to all these other projects, they're not going to have nearly the popularity. I would be shocked if this Rise of the Dragons book did good. I think Fire and Blood Part 2, I'm just going to keep it that name because I think it's better, but I think that is very interesting and I'm excited for that. I think the Dunk and Egg books will do fine as well, but it's one of those things where George is kind of almost letting his franchise die, and I don't understand it. And I know that George has made kind of a reference to Tolkien and how Tolkien didn't leave his works finished with the Silmarillion and stuff like that. But at the same time, Tolkien finished his main series of books, right? You had the Lord of the Rings. He finished those. What he didn't have finished was he had all this extra stuff. Basically, the stuff from Fire and Blood and all that stuff is kind of what's in the Silmarillion, where you have all this extra background information, and I'm talking about the Second Age and the First Age and a lot of kind of world building, right? Well, that's kind of what ends up happening with Tolkien and all that. Now, George, he almost gives me the vibes of he is just going to kind of not write Winds, and then it's going to happen after he dies or something like that. And maybe he has an outline done and he's going to have other writers do it. But if he's going to do that, it's why wouldn't you just have writers do it now? Because again, I've continuously said this, the more time you wait, the less and less people are going to care. And it's tragic, because I think this is, for the first 5 books, it's probably one of the best fantasy series ever written. But the fact that it's not completed up to this point, when it's been in the works for 1996, so you've got another like almost 30 years now, and it's not been completed as a series. Very off-putting. But, and another thing it shows me of those first 3 books is that George very much had a plan where he wanted to go with all those books. He only took about, 2 years in between all of those first 3 books. And then even with, the 4th and 5th book, he had a very relative plan with those books. Because, as he said, he had to rewrite a lot of it because he kind of had it done and then he wanted to separate it. So he had it done. But my thing with Winds is I don't think he had really this idea of where it was going to go. I think he had kind of some certain idea points. And I think the pressure and just the amount of effort that goes into trying to wrap up this huge story with all of these plot characters really kind of is a daunting task. And I think he almost, I wouldn't say gave up, but he's lost a lot of motivation to do that. Looking at how he can make some easy money with all these other prequel books that are based off of kind of knowledge we already know, or stuff like these encyclopedia type style books, or these television shows that, again, he's heavily involved in. Remember that. I don't know. Let me know what your guys' fans are. I saw this announcement when I was at work last night, which is why there was not a video about this last night. And it just pissed me off. I just, like, because George had to write in this stuff. He had to put a bunch of effort into this book. And I'm just like, I get it, George. You like to do other things, but you have to finish your story because it also breaks your credibility as a writer. Like, say you go off and start doing other type of novels, right? And you start doing your own different series. Who is going to, like, sit there and go, oh, well, I trust that he's going to finish the story? Like, no, because, like, if you're someone that's going to be tracking George now, if he writes anything else, and hopefully he doesn't, why would you even bother reading it? Because there's a good shot it's not going to get finished anyway. But I don't know. That is my thoughts. I kind of wanted to leak out some just frustration with George and how some of these just feel like deliberate shots to the fans of the main story and all that. If you look at the wording in the last blog that I talked about, and if you look at kind of when this was announced, right after he talks kind of in that disrespectful manner almost, and that condescending way in the last blog, it leaves you with a really bad taste in your mouth. And I don't know if anybody else really got that feeling from this, but that's kind of how I felt coming out of it. But yeah, so let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next one.
If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.